All right, everyone. Glad to see you're still awake out there. It's been a long day, I'm very aware. So we are quickly approaching the end of the evening. I know it's a very sad thing. So we're going to do our traditional engineering panel as we do each year. So how this is going to work, some of you submitted questions online. We're going to make sure those questions get answered. I have them here. As is tradition, I have not told any of the engineers what the questions are, so we can do our best to catch them off guard. As well, we're going to allow questions from the audience. So there are two microphones, one over here. Wave on this microphone. Hi, Hannah. And one microphone over here. Hi, Annie. And you are going to be allowed to ask your own questions. So what's going to happen is we're going to pull the engineers out here. We're going to get things started. I'm going to invite some folks to get in line. If you have a question, we're going to bounce between a couple online questions, get ones from you out there. While you're in line, go ahead and tell your question to Hannah and Annie, and they're going to help kind of work through it, make sure it's phrased properly for folks to understand. And then you're going to speak loud and clearly into the microphone for the folks at home to see as well. All right, I think that's about all I have to cover. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and welcome our engineers. So let's go ahead and step out. Folks, this year you're going to be speaking with, I'm hoping to see their faces so I can name them, Matthew Dean. Hello. We're going to do one at a time. Coming up next, Arseny, Adam Miller, Sorkis, and of course, Matt Brown. So come on down, folks. Okay. And look, I've got my own stool, so I'm going to jump on here and join you guys. All right, very cool. Cool, how we feeling today? Precarious is the answer I just got. Nervous about the questions. Matt, you've never been on stage before? I mean, for the main stage. No. It's very exciting. We're happy to have you here. All right, folks. So I think we're just going to jump right in here with the very first question. You guys haven't heard this, so I think, kind of decide amongst yourself who wants to answer as we try to get a diverse set of answers from all of you. Hey, no cheating. First question for the client. Why does Roblox have an FPS cap, and why is it against the rules to change that cap? Yeah, great. The giggles are nice for the first question.
Yeah, so we are historically limited to 60 FPS. It's kind of how our internal system works. I'm not sure if it's against the rules to change this necessarily, but I'm sure some devs have anti-exploit scripts that try to detect speed hacks and stuff like that. We do plan on fixing this for high refresh rate monitors, but it's a small enough percentage of the market that it never was super important for us to do, but I'm hoping that we can do this basically like next year. I think I said this last RDC, but I think, next year is the year.
That's the real year.
Just adding on to that, I got this question offline too. If anyone is using the unofficial frame rate unlocker, I'm going to make a personal guarantee you will not be banned from Roblox. It's okay.
You're going to get some emails from CS later. All right, next question. Studio, are there any plans to support vector graphics in the near future? Who's doing it? Arseny's got the gaze.
All right. Yeah, this is not really a studio question. It's more of an engine question. Like if engine supported vector graphics, the studio would have tools to do that. As well, we talked about this internally. It's a thing where there's a lot of time that we would need to devote to supporting this because it's hard to do vector graphics right. Graphics hardware does not work with vector graphics. It works with raster graphics. So again, like not very high priority now, but we have talked about some features kind of like this that may happen as part of our UI and app evolution.
Great. All right, moving over to the web question here. Will Roblox be able to help developers of games that improve over time by showing more recent ratings instead of an all-time ratings on the games page?
Yeah, this is definitely something we would like to do. So basically, if you're updating your game, oftentimes the game gets better over time, and our current rating system doesn't reflect that. It just shows all-time ratings. So, yeah.
Just to add to that, the biggest challenge with us kind of figuring out what the time frame for ratings is, unlike other platforms where there are versions, you are updating your games all the time. So there is no it's not clear to us exactly when you need to trigger a new ratings, right? So it's possible that in the future, you can specify when you're ready for the next version of your game as the new version, and then that's when we will trigger a new ratings. But this is in the future.
Great. All right, here. Moving over, we got some more fun questions here labeled Studio. will you be improving the editor to be competitive with VS Code? A lot of features are missing from it that encourages me to use Studio plus Rojo plus VS Code.
The short answer is yes. We are actively working. We have a huge project right now to do a lot of script editor improvements. So a lot of the functionality that you'll see in other editors, we're going to be adding to Studio. If there's anything specific you want, please make a dev forum feature request. Now's the time, and we'll get it into the pipeline.
Great. Yeah, keep submitting quests.
And I'll add that I know that one of the favorite features and recently is Deep Tab 9. I believe that's one of the reasons why you're looking into VS Code. Assume that we are looking at all possible options to make our editor better.
Great. Now I've got a question for the AV team. Is it possible to get the timer of how much is left here in front of us so that I know how long we've been going for? Appreciate that. All right. We're losing time real fast. Okay. Another question for Studio there. Will there be any improvements on the performance of Studio? I love this one comes up. As I and many other developers on Roblox crash due to big maps and low-end PCs.
Short answer, absolutely. So one of the things that you guys saw over and over today is the fact that we want to support mega games with like lots of players and very, very large worlds. So we would love to hear from you. We are actively tracking all metrics possible to figure out all the crashes. We never want to crash, right? So just come talk to us and we'll figure something out because this is #1 priority for us.
Great. I want to take a minute to remind folks as we are churning through these questions pretty quick. If you've got a question, just go ahead and stand up and walk over to one of the 2 mics we have posted in the room, and we'll address your question. If you don't, it's up to you. You can always find these guys after the show if you've got a private question and converse with them then. All right, this question will be from Matt Brown here. Is a full UGC catalog still on the roadmap? Will we see custom hats, packages, faces, animations in the catalog anytime soon? Matt, what can we expect in the future?
It's wrong if I say no.
Yeah, the whole keynote was a lie.
Yeah. So yes, it absolutely is not only on the roadmap, but if everything goes as planned, the first UGC assets should start appearing in the catalog next Thursday.
Oh, that is exciting.
So
I don't know if I knew that.
The rest of the question, so we're starting, some details, we're starting with one very specific type of asset, which is hats, because they're pretty straightforward. And then assuming that goes well, we'll open it up to all sorts of other accessories as quickly as possible, probably over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then some of the more complex, particularly to moderate or to get functionally correct asset types or item types, will take quite a bit longer. So things like full characters and things like animations. But the intent is eventually, our goal, as this starts rolling out, is that we don't make anything and the community makes absolutely everything.
Great. So I think we might want to jump to a question from the audience. If we got someone ready on this mic over here, I think I see it's Bereza lurking in the shadows. All right, Bereza, hit us with a hard one.
Don't worry, this should be an easy one. I'm currently using messaging service in my game to implement guilds with cross-server messaging, chat, kicking someone from your guild, promoting them and whatnot. And I found there's a limitation of 1024 characters, I believe, which wasn't documented. I had to test to figure it out. I have 2 questions. One is, when will messaging service be testable in Studio so I don't have to deploy it to my live game to test it? And are there any plans to increase the 1024 character limit?
Yeah, great question. So the first part was there's an undocumented limit. We'll document that immediately. And then there was a question around when can I test in Studio? The answer is probably within the next month. We're actively working on this right now. We want to make sure that you can test in Studio without affecting your live game, and then when you do publish, you can also test cross-server messaging. So really soon. And then was there one other part of your question?
Yeah. Are there any plans to raise the limit from 1024?
Yeah, so with this system, unfortunately, we have to balance between the size of data and how fast the guarantee is of people getting it. We want to make sure that we don't overload the system and slow everything down. So that's why we chose the limit of 1024. We could look at expanding it in the future. So I'll talk to you about your specific use case and see what we can do.
Great. Let's jump over to this mic and get one more question from the audience before we go back to the cards.
Well, it is a physics-related question.
Feel free to introduce yourself as well if you'd like to say your username.
All right, I am Inyo22. And my question is there any plan to implement some form of dynamic water in the future?
We really want to do this. It's really hard. Not a lot of people know this, but in 2020 2012, or yeah, I think in 2012 we actually built a prototype with cellular automata based on the old voxel water system. We never shipped it. There were significant challenges in terms of performance and also networking kind of interactions with that. We want to do this. We don't know how yet. So I think it's a thing that will be on our kind of like long-term vision, but not in the short-term roadmap.
Well, thank you anyway.
Great. We try. All right, jumping over to the online folks one more time. Here's a fun one that we get each year a little bit. When will the entire site dark theme finally roll out? Trade and group admin pages. Yeah. Tell us.
As I understand it, group admin, there's an active project working on right now rebranding it to be the new theme, and we'll get dark theme for free with that. Expect something in the next month or two. The other page was trade. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but I'm sure at some point we'll do it.
Cool. One more from online. For client side, are there any plans to improve teleporting between players' places? Improve teleporting players between places. You got it. Players, places, teleporting.
Yeah, so once upon a hack week, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, one of our great engineers, Val, built a prototype of seamless teleports. So you'd be in one place, and you'd actually see the next place before you teleported there, so you could walk smoothly between places. We proved that it's possible, and this is definitely part of our long-term roadmap. It's not on our short-term roadmap.
Great. All right, let's jump out to the audience. I'll head over to this microphone. One more time, go ahead and introduce yourself with your Roblox username and ask away.
Hello, I am Reshiram110. I did have a question regarding the UGC announcement from earlier. One of the screenshots you posted, it showed the avatar wearing like UGC items and whatnot. And in the bottom corner, instead of the Robux icon, you had a weird like diamond shape icon. Nice. And I was wondering if that was the potentially future credit that would replace Robux, or what was going on with that.
That's a good one.
Trying to think of what that image was. No, I guess is the short answer. That was a mistake, whatever it was. We're not replacing Robux with something else.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. That was a good one. Remember, the winner stumps you guys with a real good technical question. All right, let's jump over to this side, see what you got.
I'm Encoded Lua, Justin. I was wondering when, about an ETA on particles in viewport frames. I mean, I know that they were like just released within the past few months. They're really good so far. I was just wondering if particles were going to be supported in like the next few months.
The answer to the next 2 months is no, because for this to be supported in the next few months, we should already be working on this, and we aren't. Viewport frames use a slightly different rendering pipeline, which is why you have a small subset of features. We are slowly expanding this. Like we shipped support for lighting controls in viewport frames, I think a week or two ago. So you can expect updates to generally happen, but if a lot of people have the use case of particles specifically, you should make a feature request on that forum. Other people can weigh in with their feedback, and then we can prioritize this accordingly.
All right. Thank you.
Great. I think we're going to take one more from each microphone out here in the audience, as we got a lot of folks lined up.
I'm Redustian. With a full UGC catalog, how will limited items be working?
So the plan is for creators, community creators, not just us, to be able to create limited items. It's really easy for us to implement and us to enable. We're not going to do it right out of the gate. We're trying to do this incrementally so we can see, we want to make sure that everything stays healthy and happy, and so we want to watch the behavior as this rolls out. But the plan is to enable it and see how you guys use it.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. One more from this side.
Hi, I'm Thomas Shabat. I'm wondering how is the user-generated content going to work around the limited system and existing hacks?
Meaning, how is it not going to cause issues for existing limited items?
Yeah.
We're relying on the mechanisms that we don't yet have fully developed to remove duplicates to remedy or to prevent those issues, meaning that somebody can't make a copy of one of the limiteds that already exist and then make it unlimited or whatever, but we're counting on the dupe detection to deal with that.
And if it's similar but not exact copy, is that going to be caught by that?
still in development and still we're still researching it. And some of it, even if we could catch it, there is some subjectivity depending on what it is.
Okay.
Right. So if two people make red hats, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a copy.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Even I can add, there's some pretty cool technology that we're going to hope share with you guys soon about, maybe we'll share, about like how cool this kind of duping system is to track this. So should be fun. Anyway, let's jump back over to some of the online folks. We only got a couple left here, so we can get more from the audience. When will we see TOTP, two-factor auth, rather than email-based? Sure.
I believe we had
did.
a project around providing a more secure form of authentication. I don't know where that went, but this is something we are looking into doing.
Good reminder, whoever that was.
I'll add to that we totally understand the use case for developers to kind of lock down their account and be 100% secure. So at some point we will do this. It's not actually in the roadmap. We'll need to basically follow up with you after we talk to the team.
Cool. All right, let's jump over to the microphone. Take one more from this side of the room.
Hello. Okay. So first of all, okay. My username is 144Hz, so I just want to say thank you for that definitive word on the FPS unlocker.
It's close to your heart.
Yes. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of experimentation with the new height map importer system for terrain. And first of all, I love it. Thank you so much. But I've been running into an issue where I'm making a lot of terrain maps that have a lot of height variation. Now, currently, right, the importer is limited to colors between white and black, right, which means there's only 256 height values between those. So if I make a terrain world that's like really high, I'm starting to run into like a stair-stepping issue with that, right? And I'm wondering if there will be any more supported formats for the height map importer so I can get more precision on those height values on that height map importer.
So we have not, I don't think we have discussed this internally at the office, but the use case sounds valid, so we will definitely explore this, and I'll see if Arseny wants to add something.
The use case is super valid. The implementation might be really complex because these images are now uploaded through our usual pipeline. So if you are looking for something like TIFF support with like 16-bit colors, like it makes total sense for us to do this, but it might be really hard for us to actually implement this.
Okay, thank you.
And make sure to submit that as a feature request. We'll make sure it gets discussed internally.
Sure, thank you.
All right, jumping over here. What do we got next?
Hi, I'm the Amazement, and I have a question about ratings by platform. So I have a game that's multi-platform, and it's very rendering intensive. So mobile crash rates are through the roof, and I wonder how bad those ratings are compared to my computer ratings, and if I would get more traffic if the computer ratings on the website said it's higher than it is currently, and if I would need to do a lot of work on mobile before getting those players in.
Got it. So, there is a couple of trickiness that we need to unpack there. So it really depends on your intent. So let's say that like the past answer that I gave, where you're able to reset your ratings based on a version you push, this may elevate the pain a lot, right? Because if you want to keep your game available on mobile, at the same time it's crashing a lot, then you have a challenge there. We haven't actually thought about splitting the ratings by platform, but that could be also interesting for us to explore. I don't know if there is anything tricky about it yet, speaking off the top of my head, but we'll need to follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks. Let's go for one more, or maybe two more in the audience here. Let's get on this side. Who do we got?
Hi, I'm Quinty. The LiveOps model calls for DevOps and a lot of tooling around that, so like continuous integration, deployment, like automated rollouts, that sort of thing. And it's not really easy to do that right now on Roblox. So I was wondering if this model, like the DevOps model, is something that Roblox is trying to empower developers with. And if this is the case, then what sort of tooling might be on the roadmap for that?
Yeah, so I would unpack that into two different categories. One is there's sort of an idea of like phased game rollouts where you're pushing an update and you want to make sure it goes out to players gradually, so if there are any issues you can roll back. I think that's something we've thought about in the near term. Like we have an item on our platform roadmap around that. It's called phased game updates. If you're talking about more of like a CI/CD pipeline where you can go through test, development, production, that's always been part of our vision, is building that into the platform, making it really easy for your game to go to development, to closed beta, to open beta, and then finally to the entire audience. I don't think we have any concrete roadmap items around that right now, but.
So that is definitely the long-term vision. It's just a very, very, very large initiative. And there's lots of, like, immediately you can think of a lot of things that go wrong, right? Like, you need to sandbox the data stores, you need to sandbox a lot of the live services, you need to think about like how your badges, everything that you connect has to work in this environment. And we are going to actually try to get closer and closer to this vision, but it's going to be multiple years before we get there.
Yeah, in the near term, we are doing things like working on sandboxing crossover messaging, eventually sandboxing data stores, and that will enable us to move towards that.
Let's get one more from out here, and then I'm going to try to finish up from the folks on the web.
Hi, so I'm Justin Average Tree. So with the addition of user-generated content, I wanted to know if, in the same way, because it is like an additional way for developers to gain revenue, I wanted to know if, in the same way, you can give badges to players as a reward in the game, if you could do this same with user-generated content.
We are currently discussing the best way to make that possible. We absolutely want that to be possible. We're just trying to make sure there are lots of, I call them degenerate loopholes, but like ways that people can abuse different variations of that system. So we're just trying to figure out that we make sure we get it right, but absolutely on the roadmap.
All right, thank you.
All right, folks, we got about 10 minutes left here, so I want to make sure the online questions get answered, and then we'll try to get through as many as we can out here. If we can't get to your question, please come by afterwards, and you can ask it to these guys in person afterwards. All right, client question. When will character replication be able to handle 100-plus players, and is this an issue with the humanoid system primarily?
You want it?
Take your time. Take your time.
So the answer to the when should be this year. We are working on a project that kind of requires a complex, really large map, 100 people, like 20 vehicles or 30 vehicles, or I don't know, the number keeps changing. And things need to work well. Things don't work well just yet, but we are working on new algorithms like right now that should make the motion much, much better.
And you heard Dave, the vision is to get 600 players in a game if possible.
Yeah, 600 with smooth movement will not happen by the end of the year.
But that, in the future.
But in the future, absolutely.
Moving right along here. Are there plans to introduce more in-depth permissions for groups? A big problem I had recently was an investor had to have access to the game and studio to be able to run an advertisement.
I would say we are doing some things around this in the near term. So for example, right now, there's a way with a group where you have to say like, people either have all or nothing access to all of the games in the group. We are working on making it so we can grant access to specific games in the group, which might help with this. We haven't yet figured out how granular we want to go. So for example, with advertising, but I think eventually we'll want to split that out so that you can grant people advertising or marketing permissions without them being able to get the source code. Yeah.
Great. And the last question from online, my favorite each year. Roblox for Nintendo Switch, tell me when.
We don't know. There's lots of challenges that we are absolutely interested in being in every platform. You heard us say this over and over again. We want any device you can think of, we want Roblox to run on that device. So assume that we are working on this actively, and there are more than technical challenges for us to solve.
All right, let's jump back out to the audience and get through as many as we can out here. Let's go ahead on this mic. What's your name and what do you got to ask?
Hey, I'm Ayu. Some people might call me Naipa.
Oh, get a little closer to the mic. I'm having trouble hearing you.
All right. My username is Ayu or Naipa. And recently on the dev forums, I supposed a group administration system where, like, you know, with the current Roblox groups, there is like, you can only have like one owner per group. As you can see with Badimo, for instance, as like Asimo is like the only like group holder for it, and like Bad CC is like second rank. And you proposed like you had like a voting like system like for like last night where like people dropped pins and stuff on, and then you had like a group overhaul system, and I didn't get that much votes unfortunately. But as I was saying, are you like finding a way to like make it so that you can like have like efficiently have several people like administrating the same groups, like able to pay out, able to change all the ranks, etc. Like.
Got it. I think we got this question for the most part. You guys.
So, I think it's fair for me to summarize the question as, it looks like there are some limitations in the permissions on like who can do what in the group. other than the owner, and we should definitely look into fixing this because it's completely unintentional. We want the ability for someone to be able to create permissions to give to other people. Now, the challenge of having multiple owners is that it's not clear who will break the tie if two people disagree, right? So this is a fundamental challenge that we are not really sure how to solve yet. But there is actually two pieces to this. Piece one is permissions, like who can do what, and the second thing is like showcase who are the people that are part of this team when it comes to this group. So we assume that in the future we want to kind of support both cases. We just don't know how to solve some of these yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would add that for group payouts especially, that's a tricky problem. When we originally built the feature, we talked about having a council that voted on who, like changing the payout rates. Ultimately, we decided we needed to give ownership to one person who ultimately makes the decision. That's not to say we couldn't add the ability to give other people payout permissions, but it's a risk, and we want to make sure we think carefully about it.
Also, all right, folks, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to move along here. We only have 5 minutes left. I thank you so much, and if you want to ask more about this question, come find us after the show. But let's jump over to this mic and hear a couple more questions. All right, what do we got?
Hey, so I'm Tennel, and I actually have a question about, so I remember back when, this is years back, when the Scripters forum was still a thing on the Roblox forums, I was vehemently supporting that Roblox would be ported to Linux. And I remember Sorkis, I remember when you were the one who was like, I think it was you who was making the argument that because Roblox was sort of the target demographic for Roblox generally didn't overlap with Linux users, that it just wasn't worth the time to port to Linux. However, now fast forward to 2019 or 2020 and basically into the present day, we have Roblox basically having shifted from being the content creators to being the platform where people are able to generate UGC through the tools that is provided by the platform and the company. So I guess the question is, has that vision changed, and is Roblox going to be supported on Linux in the future?
So honestly, I don't think we have talked about this in a while. Right, so there is an angle to this where it's possible that we need to evaluate how many of the developer community is on Linux, because it's more important for us to support the developer community. Right, when we look at it from the player angle, we don't think there's a lot of players on Linux, but there could be a significant portion of our developer community. We haven't actually thought about this, to be fair. We will need to get back to you after we evaluate it here.
Great, moving right along, and I encourage you to make your questions as concise as possible, as we only have a couple minutes left. So go ahead on this microphone. What do we got?
All right, so I'm Fennec Paw, and I'm wondering if you're ever going to add custom night skyboxes.
Great question.
Custom night skybox?
Night skyboxes. As of right now, you cannot customize any night skyboxes, but you can change what users will see in daylight. But as of right now, there's no custom night skyboxes, so I was just going to wonder.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
they're stars. And they can change the moon, I guess, but.
Our big vision is to move to dynamic skies, which includes night skies. So I think we're going to probably put most of our effort in there. We do recognize there is a little deficit when it comes to the terrestrial objects in the sky, so maybe there's something tactical we could do in the meantime.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
For celestial objects specifically, we have discussed doing this, but again, it never became big enough for us to do at this point in time. So yeah, I think we'd do procedural sky first, and then if there's still necessity for other things, we'll do them as well.
Okay.
Great, let's jump over to Heroes. We got 2 minutes left. What do you got for our panel?
I'll be quick. I'm Splash Gamer. I'm an animator, and so far for the Roblox animation, the default that you use, it's not really that good. I actually animate in Blender, and I put it into Roblox because it looks 10 times better and moves better. And this is for Matt. Someone told me to find you. Do you guys have any plans to make the plugin better, just by default? Better IK, easier movements, splines?
Yeah, we're still working through the exact details. I think what I can say is that we're currently in the process of a ground-up rewrite of the animation editor. We've heard that feedback. We look at the telemetry. We realize that it's not a tool that most people use to create new animation. In fact, the most popular way is actually a third-party plugin from the community, not our own tool. So we are in the process of rebuilding that from the ground up. And the things you described are absolutely on the roadmap. So much improved IK, a much more flexible IK, and different types of curve support.
Thank you.
Great. I'm hoping to get through 3 more questions, so I apologize to everyone in line. Let's jump over here to this mic and get one more in here.
Hi, I'm Davidii, and I'm sure that a lot of players are excited by the concept of a UGC catalog for hats and other accoutrements that's really positive towards players because it's going to incentivize better stuff through the sales. But this is a developers conference. Will there ever be a catalog where developers can sell assets and plugins in the same way to incentivize the creation of better tools and better assets?
Yeah, so Justin hinted at this in his keynote, but we are looking into how we can support developers being able to publish content like models, plugins, and be able to sell it. It's not immediately going to happen, but similar to the UGC catalog effort, we're going to be working away at it. And you can expect updates in the coming months.
We're also, as we're doing the avatar UGC work, a lot of the back end work and a lot of the stuff behind the scenes, we're doing everything we can to make sure that it could be used for those types of assets as well.
All right, let's jump over here for another question, and I'm going to do one more after this over here. Otherwise, I apologize to everyone in line, but we are definitely out in time and overtime. What do we got?
Hey, Mimi Dev here. I've got a question about a Hack Week project that came out this year. It was reflections on parts with players moving in their reflections. Is that happening?
So it's not fully happening just yet. There's this project called Futures Bryant 2.5, right? And part of this is improved reflections, but they're not localized in the sense that if you're in a room, you don't see reflection from other objects in the room yet. We recognize this as a problem, but we don't have an efficient solution. The Hack Week project was basically not really realistic for us to fully ship in that form, but it's a big issue, and it will be bigger with the new materials, so we'll have to find ways to solve this.
Great. And one last question over here to take us home.
Hey there, my username is I do not have an AMEOK2. My question, which I'm asking for a fellow community member, is about the catalog. This has been an issue for well over a year now, where it's not possible to scroll past page 34 on the catalog. Instead, the page just entirely blanks out. And it's really a big pain for a lot of my community members when they're trying to find assets to wear for their avatar. Do you guys have any, what's the update on the fix for this issue?
Nice. Is this going to be the stump?
Yeah. No, I mean, I know what the issue is, and I know why this happened a few months back. I don't have an update on when we're going to be able to address it properly. For what it's worth, the motivator for that was to prevent performance degradation based on botting and scraping, and we kind of thought no one would notice.
And
because who goes that far in?
Yeah. So to add to that, we hope that you never have to go that far in.
Yeah, that's I think the real goal.
We should absolutely fix any reason for you to go that far in.
We do know that it is necessary sometimes to go deep in the catalog, like if you're scraping and you want to know all the hats that exist, and that's a valid use case, and we want to support that.
Right.
All right. That's fine.
All right, folks, I think that's going to be it. So let's give a big round of applause to our whole panel. Matt Brown, Sorkis, Adam Miller, Arseny, and Matthew Dean. Go ahead and grab your stools and head off, folks.